Hi guys, it's Talha here. I hope all of you are doing good. So today what we are going to learn will be about some concepts in programming. So what we are going to learn, what we learned today was about functions. We started our chapter which was about functions and we learned what are user-defined functions, user-defined functions. We learned what are predefined functions. So predefined functions, I'll discuss these three, and then I'll give you some examples and how to write them in C++. You know the way how you when you follow the syntax rules and you write them in C++. I'll show you how to do that. And then we are going to learn what we learn in statistics today. We learn about binomial distribution. I'm going to discuss what is binomial distribution. I'm going to discuss the formula for binomial distribution. How do you calculate it? And we're going to have a talk on this. So I hope in this video we'll have time to discuss all of these topics. So let's start with function. So as I discussed earlier in my videos, that what is a function. Function is basically consisting of two variables, so x and y, and x, where you input the domain and it provides you with the range, that is y. So it's here in programming, it's just the same concept, in the domain, to the domain, so you can say that domain equals the parameters of the function, or arguments. You can also call it arguments of the function. So let's say that the domain, or you can call domain, can be called as parameters or arguments, and the corresponding output or the corresponding range y will be your output. It will be your output result. You can either store it or use it in your calculations, or output in the output statement. So let's discuss what are functions in C++. So they're basically the same thing. Functions, they're basically in C++. There are in C++ there are two types of functions. One is predefined. One is predefined functions, and the second is user-defined functions. User-defined functions. So what are predefined functions? Predefined functions are already made functions, which the developers knew that people are going to need, and these are the most common functions used. For example, when we want to find the absolute of some value, we want to find the to the power. For example, we have it so let me give you guys some examples of predefined functions. So the developers knew that we are going to use these functions more oftenly. So we have, for the absolute. So there are different, for these functions to work in your program, you gotta have to include them in your header file, or you have to use hash include. And you have to know, you've got to know the destination, or the library, or you can say the file which these functions already exist in. So for different functions we have different files which they exist in. So for example, we have absolute, so we have a function called cmath, so you have to declare it at the top. So this will be your file, which it will check out when it will come to the in the code and look at this function. When it will check out this function, it will directly come to this file and see how this function works, and it's going to execute in your program as well. So you have absolute. Whether you want to find absolute, so the way you do it, you declare you declare the file where these functions exist. Then the code for these functions, where the code for these functions already exists. Then what you do, we have different functions. In cmath we have absolute. In cmath we have power, we have POW. In C math we have square root, I think UR, yes. So square root. So it has different arguments. So absolute, and it's also written in the book that for different functions there are different types of arguments. So you can have either an int variable as an argument, or you can have a double variable. So for absolute you can have int as well as a double variable. So how do you do it? You do it by ABS. It's a notation. It's a predefined function, and here you have a space for the parameter. So what you do, you insert, for example, minus 7, and then it will output you the value. This is a function, this is y, so this is a function. It will output you with the value 7. So it will output you either with so you can input either an int variable or a double variable, and what it will do, it will provide you the output in either the int form or the double form. So this was int. Now let's come to the power function. So what power functions do, it takes two parameters. One is x, second is y. So for x, so what it does, it's actually like this, x power y. So for the first argument, it takes that as a constant, and for the second argument y, what it does, it actually becomes a power of the first argument. So for example, if you insert 3 and 2 in the argument, it will actually give you 3 power 2, which is 9. So this is how you do how you use the function power. And then we have a square root function. You have I think it's like this. I forgot how you use the function. So here it takes two argument. It takes one argument, and that has got to be the positive. That has got to be a positive argument. So you can insert 4, and it's going to give you 2. So it's square root of 4 equals 2. So all these functions come into the category of C math. Like this, we have different functions. We have always got to know the you always have got to know that you always should know what header file to use while using these functions. So for if you want to convert the I think there's a function called C file, I think C file, and you have there's a library. I don't know if I'm wrong, but this is the library where you have the functions. For example, you have is upper. You have is upper. So what it shows, that either the character you entered is an uppercase letter or a lowercase letter. If it's a lowercase letter and is upper, so this will be false. But if it was is lower, and you enter a, so this condition will be true. And like that, you have different functions. You have to lower. So what it does is it converts the character you have entered into lower case character, and to upper, so it does the opposite. It converts the lowercase letter into an uppercase letter. So this was how the functions work. In C++. So these were some predefined functions. You have ABS, you have power, you have square root, you have is lower, to upper, is upper. So like that, there are many other functions which are predefined. Their code is already present in the file you have declared at the top. But what about user-defined functions? Some functions, the benefits. Also, the benefits of functions. Main is also a function, main, which we have been using up till now, and we wrote all of our code into this function main. We didn't use any other function. So what a compiler does, it always executes it always executes the main function first. It executes the main function first, and then it come towards the other function. So you have uh, for example, you have two or three functions in your C++ program. So first, what your compiler will do, it will come to this function, your function main, and it will come to different functions you have declared. So that will be user-defined functions. So in user-defined functions, you give names by yourself, and you write their program by yourself, because the developers don't know what functions you will be using in the future. There will be some functions which will be totally custom. You will want to make them by yourself, and there is no way for another person to know what function you're going to make. So for that reason, you have to make a user define, or you have to make a function of for yourself. So for that, you use user-defined functions. You can give it any name. Actually, we are going to study these user-defined functions tomorrow, I think, inshallah. So I'm going to leave here. Also, the benefits of functions. The benefits of function is, you can divide. You can actually, by the use of functions, you can actually divide your program into manageable pieces. For example, you have four sections in your program. So with functions, what functions do? Uh, they help you to uh, categorize, or they help you to divide your program into separate sections. Each section does a specific task. Another benefit of a function is that several different people can work on different pieces of your program. That will be functions. So you can hand out, or you can give a function to a person, and then another function to another person, and tell them to work on it. And when it's done, you can integrate these functions together, so you will have a whole program. So by that, and also by working on one function or one sections, you are just putting all your work, or you're just focusing only on this section, not anymore any not the other section. So you are just concerned about this only sections you are working on. So this was the this w- so these were the benefits of functions. Also, the last and but not the least benefit is that it organizes the code. So not everything is like just like a mixed up stuff in the function main. You have an organized code. So what functions do, it helps you to organize. They help you to organize your code. So another reader, or a person who is reading your code, any other person, so he can tell that this thing is meant for this purpose, and this thing is meant for this purpose. So what they do, they actually organize your code, so that way your code will be more clean and organized. Also, we had binomial theorem. So what what is binomial theorem? Binomial distribution we studied today. So binomial theorem, actually, what by actually means two. By means two. So when you have a discrete random variable whose outputs are two. So for example, we say that we toss a coin two times, but each individual outcome is two, because you can either have heads, have heads, or you can either have tails. They have two outcomes. By means two. They have two outcomes. So that is why we use h equals t. Sorry, I mean h and t. So they have two outcomes. So binomial distribution. So what we learned today in the class was in binomial distribution. For example, you have a question that they ask you. For example, they ask you to calculate the probability of when you throw a coin 2 times or 3 times, what is the probability of getting 4 heads or 5 heads. But what if they tell you to calculate the probability when the coin is tossed 100 times or 1,000 times? So you cannot repeat the same process over and over again. You have to have a formula for to calculate them easily. So what you do, you have binomial distribution. So the formula for binomial distribution is uh, for the formula for binomial distribution is you have and you got to have discrete random variables for binomial distribution also. So you have a p of x when it assumes x, and what that's equal to is n choose x, and you have p, which is the probability of your success. You take the power of x, that is the number of successes. Then you choose q, that is a 1 minus p, so q is 1 minus p, and you take to the power n minus x, that is the number of failures. So what let's discuss what this formula is about. So basically we are not going that deep because I don't have that much time, but I'm just going to touch it from the top. So n choose x is basically the combination. N choose x is basically the combination. This okay, alright, so p to the power x, you can also write q as 1 minus p to the power n minus x. So what this shows is the one organized or one ordered. For example, so we have what p denotes is the probability of successes. So for example, if I say I throw this coin 100 times and I want to know that what was the number of that, like what is the probability of having uh, of having of having 10 heads. So so for having 10 heads, we are interested in having 10 heads. So for 10 heads we have the probability of successes, so we got to have the probability of having 10 heads. Then to the power of x, so what x means is the number of successes. So what we are going to do, we are going to choose. So this is the combination, this is the probability of successes, this is the number of successes. 1 minus p is basically subtracting the probability of successes from 1, and 1 is the total probability. So what you will get in return, you will actually get the probability of failures. And then n minus x, so total minus the x, total minus the interested one, or total minus the number of successes, will actually give you the number of failures. So this formula, what it shows, it multiplies n choose x, or this is just an order of one possibility, but we are not interested in one, we are interested in we are interested in n choose x. So what we do, we multiply it with p power x, and in return we multiply that by q, which can also be written as 1 minus p, and that can also be n to the power n minus x. So I hope guys you guys enjoyed my lecture today. I also had fun giving it. Also I'm short on time, so I'll see you guys next time.